Aside from explorers and researchers, no one has ever dared to live in this unforgiving land. The frozen continent makes up most of the region, a remote place located in the southern hemisphere. It's the fifth largest continent in terms of total area, but aside from ice and creatures that somehow manage to withstand the almost uninhabitable environment, there's nothing else in its vicinity. However, it also hides some pretty amazing things, from extraordinary creatures to potentially precious stones. Here are 15 strange things found frozen in ice Antarctica. Number 15. Water bears. Polar bears are creatures that thrive on the northernmost point of our planet, the frozen Arctic. These creatures are massive and are considered the top predators in the snowy environment of the Arctic. But despite their capability of surviving the ice-cold temperatures of the northern hemisphere, no polar bears can be found in the Antarctic. Recently, however, experts discovered a different life form that once lived in a subglacial lake in Antarctica: water bears. Scientists discovered remains of microorganisms known as moss piglets, or tardigrades, beneath a kilometer-thick slab of ice. It was an unexpected finding. Scientists didn't anticipate that they would find the remains of creatures that were undisturbed for a millennia. The small creatures had 8 legs and shrimp-like shells. It was bewildering how the creatures ended up trapped in their frozen chambers. But scientists suspect that between 10,000 and 120,000 years ago, the small water bears lived in nearby ponds and streams. After all, Antarctica was warmer thousands of years ago. The specimens recovered from the frozen lake might not be alive, but tardigrades still exist to this day. In fact, they live in the most unexpected places in the world. Tardigrades are virtually all over the world, both in water and on land. They can survive in the most extreme temperatures, and they can thrive even in the most inhospitable places like hot springs and volcanoes. These creatures may be small, but believe me when I say that they have higher chances of surviving the next disaster than most of mankind. These creatures are capable of not consuming anything for months, and even up to 30 years. Pretty amazing, isn't it? Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button, and click the notification bell right now. Number 14. Dangerous bacteria. Tardigrades frozen in ice weren't the only organisms discovered by researchers in the icy environment of Antarctica. Aside from water bears, scientists also discovered an ancient ecosystem that predates the water bear's remains by millions of years. The environment that dates back millions of years ago was around -10 degrees in temperature, though during its prime, its environment was much warmer. More than 15 types of bacteria were discovered in the briny pond, making it a biotic time capsule. It's always helpful for us to learn more about microorganisms around us, but unfortunately, there are some risks in studying and taking a closer look at these microorganisms. Take, for instance, a superbacterium strain discovered by researchers in the soils of the Antarctic Peninsula. Samples of the strain showed that it was highly resistant to the effects of antibiotics today. Because of the frozen environment of the Antarctic, it shouldn't spread, for now. But we'll never know what will happen in the future. After all, with the recent incidents, it's impossible to determine when the next big disease will hit our planet. Number 13. Largest iceberg. Icebergs are pieces of freshwater ice that are more than 15 meters long. These chunks of ice came from glaciers and ice shelves in the northern and southern hemispheres. Although not many are aware of it, these chunks of ice are usually given a name. After all, they're constantly moving as they float freely along with the currents of the Antarctic waters. For this reason, the U.S. National Ice Center, or U-Nik, monitors icebergs worldwide. This organization names and tracks the movements of these chunks of ice. They study them closely to learn more about how they affect our planet and expeditions. Through them, we learned about the existence of a 600-square-mile iceberg off the coast of Antarctica. The massive slab of ice broke off from a nearly 500-foot-thick ice shelf, known as burnt. Today, it's known as the largest iceberg ever seen, rivaling the area of Long Island. In most cases, icebergs breaking away from ice shelves are connected to the warming climate of our planet. But this time around, the unnamed iceberg was a product of a natural process. Number 12. Hitler's hidden base. Adolf Hitler is among the most notorious dictators that are still remembered to this day. Hitler was behind Germany's invasion of Poland and the pursuit of Aryan supremacy, which resulted in the death of more than 5 million Jews. His name will forever be remembered in the history of mankind, but not in a positive light. In April 1945, Hitler died in a Berlin bunker, and the Second World War finally came to an end. During his life, Hitler tried to invade not only Poland, but also Russia and other Eastern European nations. Not a lot of people are aware of the fact that the dictator also had his eye on the Southern Hemisphere. In the summer of 1936, Hitler tried to increase Germany's economy. His idea was to decrease the cost and domestic consumption of butter, cheese, oils, linoleum, paints, and other oil-based products. At the time, his country was consuming a lot of whale oil, which was the main ingredient for margarine, a popular and stable ingredient in Germany during his time. By the end of the 1930s, Germany sent an expedition to Antarctica. Several people boarded the ship MS Schwabenland to claim an area in Antarctica that is now known as Dronning Maudland. During the time, the expedition was kept a secret. During one of their expeditions, one of their planes ran low on fuel. To ensure that they would reach their destination, the crew was forced to throw out some of their cargo from the plane. The entire expedition was supposed to be a secret, but the cargo, which included metal swastikas, gave away their objective. However, most of the things about the expedition remain to be a mystery to this day. In fact, people still believe that there really is a secret Nazi base in Antarctica. No proof has ever been discovered supporting this claim. Number 11. Strange statue. Antarctica is one of the places on Earth that is almost completely devoid of human life. That's why no one expected to find an entire bust statue standing in the middle of its frozen and icy land. In December 1958, 18 scientists and explorers stepped foot on Antarctica's shelf. Not the most accessible part of Antarctica, but rather the farthest point on the continent, also known as Antarctica's pole of inaccessibility. Not only is this the farthest, but it's also the coldest part of the continent. The temperatures in this section are incredibly unforgiving, about minus 30 degrees Celsius on average. One must face an incredibly unforgiving journey just to reach this icy point. That's why when Soviet explorers made it to the location, they decided to leave something behind. It was in the form of a large bust of the founder of the Soviet Union, Vladimir Lenin. Because of how harrowing it is to reach the location, there aren't a lot of pictures of the statue, but it's still there today. In fact, it just might be the loneliest and even the coldest statue in the entire world. When the statue was first erected, it was surrounded by a makeshift station built by the Soviets. However, when it was visited by British and Canadian explorers on January 19, 2007, the surrounding stations were already buried in snow. Lenin, on the other hand, remained standing, overlooking the endless white landscape of Antarctica. We still don't know when Lenin's next visitor will be, but with the statue's location, it's highly probable that it will be a while. Will the statue still be there in the future? Who knows? Number 10. Antarctic meteorite. Each year, millions of space rocks burn up in our planet's atmosphere. More often than not, chunks as well as small bits and pieces of these space rocks end up plunging to the Earth's surface. After striking the ground, these rocks are now known as meteorites. More than 60 million years ago, a massive meteorite hit planet Earth, ending the era where dinosaurs ruled our planet. Although they don't have much of an impact, scientists believe that around 10,000 meteorites collide or enter our planet's atmosphere each year. Some of them can be found in the most unlikely places, including a random person's backyard, but many of them end up in the southern hemisphere. Earlier this year, a group of scientists discovered a massive space rock on the freezing land of Antarctica. The meteorite was almost 17 pounds, making it one of the heaviest and biggest space rocks discovered on the continent. However, this Antarctic meteorite isn't really comparable to the biggest meteorite discovered in the entire world. No, that record is already secured by the Hoba meteorite in Namibia, which measures a staggering 9 feet. Compared to the measly 17-pound meteorite in the southern hemisphere, Hoba weighs a whopping 132,000 pounds. Although Antarctica is unforgiving because of its freezing temperature, it's the best place to search for meteorites. That's why it's frequented by meteorite hunters and scientists alike. Its freezing climate, dryness, and wide environment make it so meteorites are preserved and easier to spot. The size of the space rock hardly matters, but its rarity makes it an exciting discovery. After all, each meteorite we discover on Earth gives us information about the solar system we belong to. Number 9. Blood waterfall. Most people wouldn't expect to find a waterfall in Antarctica, and so a lot of people are surprised to learn that a 5-story fall actually exists in the frozen continent of Antarctica. Unlike the ordinary waterfalls we see around the world, the falls in Antarctica are incredibly different. Its water has a horrifying crimson hue, similar to blood. For this reason, it's known as the Blood Falls. It can be found on the Taylor Glacier, pouring its blood-red water into Lake Bonny. Now, you're probably wondering where its red color came from. Its origin can be traced back to millions of years ago, when the sea levels of our planet rose, flooding East Antarctica and forming a salty lake. During the process, the lake was sealed, cutting it off from the rest of the environment. This means that 400 meters below Blood Falls is a watery time capsule that contains secrets from more than 5 million years ago. When Blood Falls was first spotted by experts, its color bewildered them. Initially, people believed that its blood-red hue came from algae or something similar, but now, the truth has been uncovered. It turns out that the water flowing out of the lake comes from its iron content. After being exposed to the air, it quickly rusts, giving the water its strange blood-red hue. The iron content of the water also explains why the falls exist in the first place. If it weren't for its salt content, the falls wouldn't exist. The briny water doesn't freeze. Number 8. Hidden world under Earth's largest ice shelf. There aren't a lot of areas on Earth that we haven't explored. That's why each time we discover a new habitat on our planet, it's incredibly amazing. In 2022, scientists exploring the Antarctic region announced the discovery of a hidden world more than 1,600 feet beneath the largest ice shelf in the world, Ross Ice Shelf. Hundreds of shrimp-like crustaceans were thriving in the water, and it was a complete delight to see them swimming around as the camera was lowered beneath the Ross Ice Shelf. It was a discovery that researchers didn't anticipate, as they believed that no life could be found beneath the ice shelf during their initial expedition. There might be a lot more things hidden beneath the frozen region of Antarctica, and as the ice around the region continues to melt, more of its secrets will most likely be revealed. Number 7. 1 million-year-old DNA. Our planet is the only habitable world in our solar system. It's estimated to be about 4.54 billion years old, but it could easily be older. Life on Earth, however, existed about 3.7 billion years ago. The earliest life forms were incredibly small organisms known as microbes. With our ever-changing planet, it's incredibly rare for us to discover specimens that can be traced back to millions of years ago. In 2019, a group of scientists were surveying the sea floor north of mainland Antarctica when they stumbled upon something amazing. Scientists gathered genetic samples by accident. They didn't realize that they obtained ancient DNA almost 600 feet beneath the seafloor. We're still unsure about where the DNA came from, but it most definitely came from a eukaryote, an animal or a plant. The discovery revealed that more than 500,000 years ago, there was an abundance of life on our planet. And as the climate changes today, we might see a rapid change in the world's ecosystem in the near future. Number 6. Mummies. No one dares to overstay their welcome in the unforgiving region of Antarctica. That's why you're probably thinking that it would be incredibly strange to find mummies on the continent. But you'd be surprised to learn that there are actually dozens of them in Antarctica. However, they're not human mummies. Instead, they're ancient remains of penguins that date back to about 800 years ago. Researchers stumbled upon an area covered not only with penguin litter, but also pebbles, bones, and frozen mummies of Adelie penguins. The discovery was revealed by the quickly warming Antarctic Peninsula. Researchers found it strange to find the telltale signs of an Adelie penguin colony in the area. After all, no signs of this colony existing has been recorded in the past years. Based on the remains left on the site, the colony remained around the area until they ran out of food. Many of the poor birds likely starved and died as the medieval warm period occurred around 1,000 years ago. Today, it's highly unlikely that the area would be occupied by penguin colonies. But in the future, there's a good chance they'll return. After all, Antarctica is one of the fastest warming regions on our entire planet. Number 5. Crashed alien spaceship. If there was a region on our planet that aliens would want to visit, where do you think it is? Several UFOologists believe that the best way to check out planet Earth is by visiting the southern hemisphere, where no humans live. Most proof of alien activity is captured on Google Maps. I'll let you be the judge yourself. An eagle-eyed person spotted this strange object on the Antarctic continent while looking around the area on Google Maps. I don't know if this looks like anything to you, but a lot of people seem to believe that this feature is actually a UFO or an alien spaceship. This isn't the only weird feature discovered on the icy continent. Another observant internet user spotted this elongated feature on the frozen continent. Unlike the first so-called spaceship spotted in the area, this feature compelled more people, as it looked like something that crashed into the snowy ground. What made it more convincing was the trail it left behind. You can clearly see two lines trailing behind whatever the object is, making it look like it just plowed through the snow. But what exactly is this strange feature? There's a chance that this could be an actual spaceship, but it's most likely a rock rather than anything else. Number 4. Tragedy flight of TE-901. Mount Sibley is the tallest volcano in Antarctica, and next to it is Mount Erebus, which is the second tallest volcano on the continent. But it's the most active volcano in the region. On November 28, 1979, a sightseeing aircraft carrying 257 people crashed into Mount Erebus. It was one of the most disastrous incidents that has ever affected New Zealand. Flight TE-901 was an Air New Zealand flight that was designed for people who wanted to take a scenic flight over Antarctica. The plane had incredibly comfortable seats and offered the best view of the endless frozen region of the southern hemisphere. For years, the airline had successful runs of several 11-hour non-stop round trips from Auckland to Antarctica, until the disaster happened. On November 28th, the flight's pilot, Jim Collins, maintained the plane at an altitude of about 2,000 feet, offering his passengers the most incredible view of the icy region. Little did he know that he wasn't flying over an area he was familiar with. He wasn't flying over the McMurdo Sound, the southernmost navigable water in the world. Instead, he was threading over an area that led directly into the side of Mount Erebus. Search and rescue operations were immediately deployed around the area. The wreckage was easy to spot on Ross Island. Rescuers called out for any survivors, but unfortunately, no one survived the incident. For so long, the reason behind the flight's failure remained a mystery, until Alwyn Gordon Bett, a pilot from New Zealand, released his analysis. Whiteout was a phenomenon that could hinder a pilot's visibility while flying over Antarctica. And since his analysis, whiteout has been a factor considered for Arctic flights as well. Number 3. 60 million icefish nests discovered in Antarctica. While researchers were scouring the seabed of Antarctica, they didn't expect what they saw. What welcomed them were more than 60 million active nests of fish. The amazing fish colony covered an area about a third of the size of London. Overall, more than 240 square kilometers of the Weddell Sea were occupied by the fish breeding colony. The discovery was a pleasant surprise for researchers who didn't expect to find a massive, thriving breeding ground while surveying the Filchner ice shelf. To this day, it's the largest icefish colony discovered. Unfortunately, the sheer size of the colony means nothing to the number of icefish around the area, since seals treat it as a massive buffet. Even so, the discovery is incredible. Number 2. The Southern Hemisphere's deepest point. Sitting more than 24,000 feet below the surface of the ocean is the freezing and unforgiving location known as the Victorian Deep. This location is about the equivalent of 17 Empire State Buildings stacked on top of each other starting from the bottom of the ocean. It wasn't until recently that the Victorian Deep was documented for the first time. Data obtained from sonar was used to obtain a map of the region, revealing mountains, canyons, and plateaus located more than 20,000 feet underwater. Because of its temperature and location, It's quite impossible for us to reach it, but through sonar that we use today, we'll be able to catch a glimpse of its frigid environment. And now it's time for today's topic. This is a scientist's terrifying new discovery under Antarctica's ice. Have you ever heard about the hollow Earth theory? Basically, it states that our planet and other worlds in the universe have hollow cores. Now this sounds far-fetched, but some people are convinced that this is the truth. Today, we believe that our planet's core is composed of liquid magma. That's why if we drill a massive hole into our planet, we'll most likely see hot molten metal instead of this. However, several people believe that if you pierced a massive hole into the southern hemisphere, the truth that our planet actually has a void in its center would be revealed. So far, the deepest cavern systems in the world prove that our planet's core is composed of hot molten metal. The deeper you go, the hotter it gets. What's your take on this matter? As always, comment down below with the hashtag today's topic, and let us know your opinion about what we just showed on screen. With that said, let's keep things moving. Number 1. Antarctic diamond. Manganese nodules, coal, natural gas, petroleum, and sources of geothermal energy are only some of the most valuable things one could get in Antarctica. However, a new discovery revealed that something more valuable might be hiding among the white landscape of Antarctica all along. A new type of ice was discovered in Antarctica, and it's not the type that melts. Instead, it's considered to be among the most valuable stones on the planet. Diamond. Kimberlite is a type of igneous rock that is a rare form of peridotite. This type of rock was named after a location in South Africa, particularly in the town of Kimberley, where an 83.5-carat diamond was discovered. Kimberlites are the most important source of diamonds. That's why their presence in Antarctica might mean that a gold rush could be coming to the continent soon. In most cases, kimberlites contain diamonds inside of them, but there are also times when they don't. The ones discovered on the Antarctic continent didn't have diamonds inside them, but researchers believe that there are several kimberlites on the land that actually contain diamonds. If that happens, however, a gold rush wouldn't immediately begin. Unlike countries with clearly mandated territories, Antarctica is a continent that isn't owned by any one nation. According to the Antarctic Treaty System, the icy region is dedicated to peace and science, nothing else. On December 1, 1959, 7 countries with territorial claims agreed to the treaty, including Argentina, Chile, France, Norway, the United Kingdom, Australia, and New Zealand. Today, however, 54 nations have signed the Antarctic Treaty, and more countries might follow soon. So long as this treaty exists, international scientific collaboration will be in place in Antarctica. This effectively bans all territorial disputes on the continent. Today, only researchers have an interest in the region, but if precious stones were to be discovered on the frozen land, this agreement might change. Which of these discoveries intrigued you the most? Let me know about your thoughts in the comments down below. Also, check out our other cool stuff showing up